What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the GoodeBaker podcast. I'm Nick Baker, and across from me, Shane Good.
Yo, what up?
And joining us this week, Ben Perkins.
Excited to be here.
Talk to us about some Xbox stuff. But first things first, I want to let you know, jump over to that YouTube page and give us a subscribe. And also subscribe to our podcast and on all those podcast services, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify are our main gigs. If you want to keep up with us on our social media accounts, you can do that too. Look for us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search GoodeBaker with an E in the search bar and you'll find us, no problem. But on to bigger and better things. What have you guys been playing this week? Let's just get the water cooler conversation going here.
So I'm gonna let Ben go first because I've got another new game.
Okay, fair enough.
Wow. All right. I like it.
Okay, so this week on my slate, I've been playing Warzone, probably as a lot of people have, as usual.
Yeah.
Then I've been playing some Last of Us 2, which I'm trying to get the rest of the way through. Man, that game just looks beautiful. I'm impressed every time I pick it up. Then the other game that has been out for a while, but I dove into that I had downloaded for a while is Hello Neighbor, which is like a horror game, kind of like cartoon style game. And it looks pretty harmless, but man, that game keeps you on the edge of your seat. Felt myself like getting kind of nervous a bunch of times in the basement with that neighbor chasing me around.
Oh my god, yeah, I watched gameplay for that one, and
Game's pretty. Honestly, you think it's this cutesy little game, and then you get into it, and you're like, "Oh, this isn't gonna be that bad." Then you hear like his footsteps stalking you in the basement where there's no lights, and it gets real quick.
And the fact that we used to work with a guy that looked exactly like the guy from that,
Yikes!
just, like showing up
Flat out.
Yikes.
Yeah. But you've been enjoying The Last of Us 2.
Oh yeah, it's I love the gameplay, and honestly the graphics lived up to what I thought they were going to be from the trailer, but honestly they were better than I thought. I'm playing on the PS4 Pro, but they still just looked significantly better than I thought they were going to be.
And do you want to fill in the viewers, listeners about our recent victory in Warzone last night?
Ooh.
Yeah, sure. So last night we were playing some Warzone with Nick and my brother, who's a friend of ours, and we got into the game, and things were the usual grind, trying to get the loot drop, trying to get the usual stuff. But we ended up getting on with a friend of a friend, and at the end of the game, we just got the perfect setup for the zone. Everything worked out really well. We did some really good teamwork, and we were able to skirt like the edge of the zone with the wall of the actual game, and ended up being in the perfect spot. They had a buyback plan where they bought people back to drop in on us to win it, but we ended up being able to take them out before anything happened. So we got a nice, easy win. First one in a while, too, so it felt pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah, felt really good. But yeah, what have you been playing, Shane?
So I picked up this new game. That's free, so I didn't really pick it up. I just downloaded it. It's called Conqueror's Blade.
Oh man, here we go.
So it's not the type of game that most people like. I didn't even know this genre really existed. So it's basically, imagine like a Mount and Blade type of game. So you're a soldier that commands a variety of different types of units, and you go into like 5v5 people battles of like one person is defending a base and the other 5 people, or one set of 5 people are defending a base and the other 5 people are trying to capture the base. And you have anywhere from like 15 to 35 units depending on how powerful your units are. And you are like a variety of classes. Like I'm a musketeer. So like you go in, the map loads, you pick whatever set of units you want to load up first, and then it's like just kind of strategic combat where you tell your units where to go and battle the other units, but you're allowed to also affect the battlefield as like a character that is playable, and obviously like kill the other opposing units as well. It's pretty fun.
All right, yeah, sounds deep.
That sounds pretty good, especially for a free game.
Yeah. It's very strategic, which isn't what I expected for a free game. I kind of just expected like a nonchalant, like, the units spawn and then you go kill everything. But it's a lot of fun too.
That's the best when you find a free game that actually like is pretty quality.
Yeah, and it actually has it has a crazy amount of like fucking reviews on Steam. It has 10,000 reviews right now. That's 71%
Nice.
positivity rating.
Yeah, that's
So
really good.
yeah,
Dang. All right.
but that's what I've been playing. That and of course League of Legends and Albion
No.
Online, a little bit of Eve.
I feel like the stigma for free games is kind of being lifted now, especially with all the free games you get from like subscriptions like Xbox Game Pass and the monthly games you get from just having gold and plus, you know.
Mm.
Oh, for sure. I remember back like in 2012, 2013, when like the PlayStation 3 and stuff, you get free games, and they were great, but they never really lived up to some of the titles. Where man, some of the free games are the ones I find playing the most now.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I find interesting? I don't think they've ever put Skyrim on a free rotation. And how old is that game?
It's gotta be what, like
It's
9
because
years
the
or
game just keeps selling, dude. It's just like GTA 5. Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
find that game for like $5 somewhere, but it'll never be free. It'll always pinch you somewhere.
Sure.
Unless you're playing the online, I guess the online's going to be free for next gen. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima, just playing a little bit more of that. Played some Warzone, obviously last night. We had that sweet win, felt really good. We had that sick location. Was it at Corey that we
Yeah.
finished there? And yeah, that was awesome. I
Nice.
couldn't have asked for a better zone drop, and the zone pulled to us at the very end. So we were in the last zone, and how it works now in season 4 is it moves instead of just completely shrinking in and leaving you in the gas. So now you have an opportunity to actually fight it out with the people instead of there being whatever these little gimmicks that people use for like gas mask revivals and
Mhm.
horrible shit. But Ghost of Tsushima, man, I've gotten to a point in that game without giving too much away where I'm realizing that it's kind of working its way up there for game of the year for me. I'm like, wow, this game is crazy good. The visuals are stunning. The gameplay is so much fun. The loop is amazing. The varied quests and missions you can go on are just each one it feels just enough different from the last, and it kind of tweaks your expectations in just such a way that you can kind of get through them with relative ease of you just one after another, and before you know it, like 3 hours have gone by and you're like, oh my god, what am I doing with my life?
Uh,
But one thing I did want to say is the thing that I like most about this game right now is the variety of locales that you can find on just the island of Tsushima. So the first area you find yourself in, there's a lot of fields with grassy plains and beautiful, colorful trees. But in this second area, you're starting to find these like darker areas, these bamboo forests, and like things you would expect from like darker animes. Is similar like Samurai Champloo. It gives me a lot of those vibes where yeah, the main characters' names are escaping me right now. I think one of them is actually Jin, and I think the main character in Ghost of Tsushima is Jin, so that's probably why that's weird for me. But
that makes
there's a
sense.
specific scene in that where they're fighting in this dark, reedy forest, and every time I go in there, I'm like, oh man, this is so sick. But yeah, that's what I've been playing. We right now are going to start running down the Xbox Games Showcase here. We're going to do the highlights of the show, the way they did it. So I took notes as the show went on. So this should be pretty much in order, and I might have missed like one or two, but this just, that's how things go. I got all the big ones here anyway. And obviously, we're going to talk about the biggest one, I think, first. Arguably the biggest one. We'll get down to it at the very end, but yeah, I'm just going to start rattling them off here if you guys are ready to go.
Yeah,
Sounds
man.
good to me. Hit me.
All right. The Xbox Games Showcase. So, man, I was pretty hyped for this, and I didn't really expect them to start it with Halo. So, what did you guys think of the Halo Infinite kickoff for this show?
Actually, we thought it was pretty funny because I was like, I wonder if they'll do Halo right off the bat. I'm like, no, they wouldn't do that. That's their big reveal. So no, they won't. And they kind of saw the suit coming together in the initial like trailer for the game,
Mm.
and I knew right off that it was Halo, and I was like, wow. Well, I guess they're pulling no punches, just going for it right out of the bat. I think it was cool. The rest of the showcase was pretty like in depth and full, so it didn't feel like there was nothing left after Halo. And I guess they just wanted to like hook people in at the beginning of the showcase, so they'd stay and watch the rest of them.
For a split second at the very beginning of that, I was like, are they revealing the S version? Because they had like all that weird like cutting
Yeah.
graphics where it was like slimming it all down to this smaller thing. I'm like, oh, what the hell is that? And then I saw the armor plates coming into that. I'm like, oh, this is Halo for sure.
Yo, for sure. I kind of was surprised that they really like they started with Halo, dude. You feel like that's the hook. Like I really felt like that was supposed to be the hook. Not that it was bad, but I was really surprised that they just opened up with Halo.
Yeah, I feel like it showed a lot of confidence in the rest of their lineup, and
Mhm.
I think it's a bold move to just put that out front. And honestly, it set the tone for the show really, really well. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I thought that we were going to get our traditional Halo here.
Mhm.
A few of the surprises that came along the way, I kind of expected too. So um, yeah, I thought it was a really bold way to go to just throw it out there. And honestly, looking back on it now, like initially I was like, oh, this just kind of looks like Halo 5 in a way, but it just better open world, sandboxy a little bit. But I looking back on it now, I've watched the gameplay a few times. I'm like, you know, I really think this is going to resonate with a lot of OG Halo fans, and like listening to more people that like Halo more than myself. I feel like that's kind of the consensus.
Speaking of
Yeah.
somebody who likes Halo more than myself, Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just about to chime in. Yeah, I've watched the gameplay, I think like total 3 times now, and like you said, the first time I was like, it's just kind of a graphics refresh on 5,
Mm,
because it looked pretty similar like out of the gate. You're kind of miss some stuff the first time you watch it just because you're so like excited and trying to take everything in. You
yeah,
miss
yeah.
some of the little details and stuff. But after watching it a few times, really excited for what's coming out with it. It looks like they've upgraded a lot of things and added some like cool new weapons. It looks like revamped some other stuff. I really liked. I know it's like just an aesthetic touch, but I really liked the Warthog, how they had like the gas canister on the back, and
Mm.
it shows they kind of keep the roots from the original game, but they've added some cool like graphics refreshes and some stuff to the game to make it look a little more modern. Really excited for it. Just hoping the storyline is a little better than 5, because I know a lot of us who played it were pretty disappointed with 5 storyline, but holding out hope for that. But it's really exciting that it's also going to be part of the Xbox Game Pass, so you'll be getting that if you're part of Game Pass subscriber. You'll be getting that for free when it comes out, which is really cool since it's such a big game.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's
one thing
cool.
I actually forgot to mention at the top of the show is they started the showcase by saying that all the games that were shown on there are going to be available at their launch. So not necessarily the launch of the console, but at the launch of each of these games, it's going to be available on Game
That's
Pass. So
that's really awesome.
it's ridiculous just seeing the amount of game. I think there were 22 games in total shown in the main show, and I think there were like 4 or 5 shown in the pre-show. So
Yeah.
it's a considerable amount of games just being dropped right on that service, and I can't say enough about how awesome that is. And I hope
Them
that Sony follows suit soon.
them saying that got me really excited too, because I mean, there's a lot of other game subscriptions you can get. Like I have EA Access as well,
Mm,
but with EA Access, like you didn't get Madden 2020 out of the gate, and they let you preview it, but you don't get the game, and it's just really cool that you're actually just gonna get the straight up whole game right out of the gate with Xbox Game Pass.
Mm.
That really made me excited for it. Makes you feel like you're getting your money's worth instead of have to wait like 6 or 7 months after it's out when everyone's already played it.
Honestly,
yeah.
oop.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's kind of nuts that they're actually doing that too, because like their potential, like that shows you how much money it takes to make these games, but also how much money they don't make per se by selling physical copies of the games, by selling copies of the games in general. Like the
Mm.
subscriptions are just that good that they don't have to at this point.
I think they said something along the lines of, I believe, if I remember right from the showcase, they said something along the lines of they have like 10 million plus Game Pass subscribers now. So
Yeah.
pretty solid numbers. I'm sure they're bringing in. If you multiply the amount for Game Pass per that many members, it's probably pretty financially lucrative for them to do it, I guess.
Right, and no matter what tier you jump in at, like I think there's the $8 tier and the $15 tier
Yeah.
Mhm.
for whether or not you want PC incorporated in that. And I mean, they're just raking it in on that, and I feel like that's such a good business plan going into a next gen, just because you can be like, oh, hey, all these games are already ready to go for you at launch. We don't have to worry about jumping out of the gate with this huge launch lineup title, a bunch of titles for launch. Yeah, I think it takes a lot of pressure off Xbox in that way.
Oh,
I think it
100%.
definitely plays into like I know for at least Nick and I who buy a bunch of the games right when they come out pre-ordered. I remember dropping I don't even know $300-$400 on games just the first few months the PS4 was out, and I think it really helps out those people who buy a lot of games right when they come out because I mean do the math on it, $8 a month, you're saving a lot of money if you're buying 5, 6, 7, 8 games. So
Or even if you don't buy a lot of those games, you immediately get access to a ton of games that you may not have been able to afford before too. So it kind of
which is
helps.
awesome.
Yeah,
It's such a win-win for both Xbox and consumers. I feel like
For sure.
I know.
good play.
For me personally, I don't buy a lot of like games as they come out because I'm poor, and the Xbox like it $8 a month really seems like it's not that bad for like the fact that usually I don't play a lot of story games, so like me downloading a game and then beating it in like 20-25 hours is pretty like I guess the dollar per played per hour ratio is really good on
Yeah.
Yeah,
something
no,
like that.
really solid, especially when you get into like, they have, I was just scrolling through it a couple nights ago. They have, Red Dead 2,
Hmm.
Rocket League, a lot of these like staple games that a lot of people love to play. And I mean, you can get those in and then try out a bunch of other games that you would never really pick up. I think it's a win-win.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. So moving on from Halo being one of their biggest flagships on to another one of their up and coming flagships in State of Decay 3. It was just kind of a teaser trailer showing a zombified deer and this woman screaming at the top of her lungs and scaring the shit out of the deer. So what did you guys think of this? Have you guys played State of Decay before? I'm one that has not played it, but I've always wanted to. It's one of those ones that has always enticed me over to the Xbox side. I'm like, oh man, that's so cool. But what do you guys think?
Uh, I mean, I have not played State of Decay myself. However, I've watched the entire game played. I watched a Let's Play with Rooster Teeth, and I've seen like pretty much the entire game played through them. And I
Mhm.
think the game looks really cool, and the game looks like it would be a lot of fun to play. It seems like it's one of those ones that might be more fun with other people. I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't know. It seems like that, but maybe it's not. I thought this one looked really cool though. I'm sorry, I'm like having a little bit of internet issues. I thought this one looked really cool, and I thought that like the little teaser trailer that we got was really interesting. However, I had my volume way too high for that deer to scream.
Oh my god, yeah, that must be terrible.
Yeah, did anyone else get freaked out when she screamed? Like I was like, what?
No, it was honestly terrifying. I was like, whoa, what the hell?
I was not
I didn't
expecting that at all.
But
Yeah.
honestly, it kind of plays into the theme of the game. I feel like you're supposed to be this survivor, so it shows that there's some sort of growth in that series. So
Hmm.
it's interesting. But moving on from that, that was such a short one. I feel like we don't really need to spend too much time on it. The next one on here is Turn 10 is now going to be the ones working on Forza Motorsport. They got past this by Playground Games, which you'll find out later is working on another title. Spoiler alert. Um,
Gasp.
so yeah, Forza is always awesome. That's another one that's always kind of dragged me in the Xbox direction, but I've never quite gotten there. I always loved playing Forza, and just like the demos that you'd play, or like going over to a friend's house playing it there. It's always been like a top tier racing sim in my eyes. So,
Hmm.
what do you guys think?
Man, I'm pretty excited for it. I thought the, I mean, obviously it's just initial footage, but I thought the gameplay looked really cool. The graphics and everything were absolutely nuts. This all captured in engine. And I'm usually mostly a Forza Horizons guy, but honestly, I'm pretty excited for this next game, and I love all the details you see. Just the suspension components, the exhaust components, everything's so like detailed and sharp and crisp, and it
Mm,
just looks like they're really kind of going to the next level with it, adding some more. Whereas the older Forzas, they didn't have as many tracks, they weren't as detailed, they weren't as I don't know, as exotic locations and stuff. It seems like they're really putting the extra amount into what's going to be available for tracks, cars, and just how you can tweak everything, tire pressure and horsepower, and you can do all these different tweaks to make the cars feel completely different. And it's so crazy how just actually tweaking it like you would a real car actually makes the car feel so much different. There's not a lot of games, especially for consoles, out right now that are really that in depth when it comes to cars.
Yeah, I feel like Forza is always eating Gran Turismo's lunch, and it completely destroyed Drive Club, because Drive Club was so confusing coming out. It was supposed to be free for PlayStation Plus, never got there. It took like another year to come out, and when it finally did come out, it was like in beta or something weird. I don't ever really know what became of that game. It looked so good when we saw previews for it before the PS4's launch, but yeah, Forza's just always killing it.
Mm. I do love Forza. Luckily, I've had the opportunity to play Forza and like Need for Speed on my computer and stuff like that. And I same with Ben. Not really the track kind of guy when it comes to games like that. This one looked really cool and just it looked so crisp and it looked like it was gonna be a lot of fun to play. Definitely like very enticing.
Mm.
Um, I still like I don't know. There's something about me that just I want a Midnight Club, another Midnight Club game, personally. But I don't know. I think Rockstar's pretty much done with that series. But
Yeah, we could see a resurgence here, maybe from a different developer or maybe a smaller team at Rockstar or something.
possibly. I mean, we did single-handedly make Skate 4, so
I mean, yeah, we did single-handedly get Skate 4 in production. So,
yeah.
One last thing on the Forza. I feel like the Forza footage, probably out of this whole showcase, all of it you could really see it, but showed off the ray tracing they're going to be using, where
mm,
how the light refracts off of different things. With cars, you have all the metal surfaces and different materials, and you could really see reflections in the car's paint. I think all the games most of them showcase the ray tracing pretty well, but I noticed it a lot on the Forza side
Mm.
of it, just showing off how the light and everything would refract off the mirrors, the paint, and going around corners and shadows and stuff. Really were pretty apparent in the Forza showcase.
not to go like too deep back into Halo, but I guess that's one complaint a lot of people did have, is because Halo's going to have ray tracing eventually, but it won't have it at launch. That they showed the gameplay without the ray tracing,
Mhm.
and
Yeah, I did see that.
I feel like the ray tracing is gonna fucking make Halo look so good, though. Like Chief's armor is gonna like shine with every light laser that passes him. It's gonna look so awesome.
It's gonna be amazing. I mean, I don't know if this is kind of off topic, but I don't know if anyone saw the ray tracing demo when they released the hardware for the Xbox Series X. But they had a Minecraft ray tracing demo for the new Minecraft update for this next gen, and even just Minecraft with being a pixelated game like that, it looks absolutely insane on even Minecraft. How much the light and stuff changes the game.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did see that.
No, yeah, I totally saw that, but I saw it on a computer because, ray tracing and computers have been a thing for a while. But, other news.
In Minecraft.
Yeah, actually.
Cool. Well, ray tracing being new to consoles. Ori. Oh no, wait, shit, I skipped one. No, I skipped two.
I was going to say,
Rare.
wait a second.
Terrible segue. So Rare's coming out with Everwild, and I believe that they showed a few trailers before this one, but this one is clearly the most in depth into what this game's actually going to look like.
Yeah.
Still don't really know what this game is actually going to be. It gave me almost, in a weird way, it gave me kind of Pokemon vibes, where they're kind of working with the animals of the world. But
Mhm.
so yeah, Everwild. What did you guys? What's your barometer on this one?
Pretty interesting. I'm not sure if it's a game that I'll dive into right off. I mean, I probably will test it out since, like I said, the Game Pass is going to be available on that. But I don't know if this is a thought I had, but I don't know if Xbox like worked with the developers and kind of had them showcase something on each of their trailers that's going to be like a new feature on the Xbox Series X. But like that game with how the wind was blowing, the leaves and everything really showed off like the motion and the fluidity of how it's gonna look. I
Mm.
don't know if Microsoft worked with them as far as like having Forza show off the ray tracing more, or this or that, or if that was planned or unplanned. But that game really kind of showed like the I don't know, fluidity of the motion and stuff that's going to be available on the next gen consoles.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like if anybody, Rare is the one to blow people out with like colors and, like you said, fluidity and movement. Because usually their titles like Sea of Thieves aren't very technically impressive. They're more kind of behind the scenes, like where the water in Sea of Thieves is um, so realistic looking. You know.
Mm.
I
I
thought it
think.
was cool. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You can finish this.
Since I thought it was cool because PlayStation has a few other games that are like nature kind of similar to that, where I think Xbox has been lacking in that kind of smaller category. So I think it was definitely a cool entry for them to kind of fill out their game library. Like I said, I don't know if I'll try it at launch, but I think I'll definitely check it out at some point and just see what it's about.
Yeah. This was kind of like the not really indie, but like I don't know, the double A section
Yeah,
of
for sure.
from here to a few of the next ones. So we'll kind of probably skip through these pretty quickly. But I mean, a lot of these actually looked pretty interesting. The next one I think was probably the lowest point in the showcase for me because I think it looked the worst in my opinion. Uh,
Really?
yeah, don't nods. Tell me why. An emotional adventure of a brother and sister searching their past for answers is what I wrote down here as my notes for this one. Do you guys remember this one?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought that like the painterly style of this one reminded me a lot of the Telltale games in a bad
Yeah.
way. I feel like where the engine for the Telltale games is so old and rickety that I don't know, the animations and everything don't really look that great. And it's not. There's one later that I can't really. I think it's as Dusk Falls that is completely. It's like a graphic novel and it's like sort of animated, but it's not. It's like hand drawn slides
Mm-hmm.
Is that
almost.
the one that's like the American Southwest?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that one. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So that one I felt like did what this one's trying to do better in actually like a more simplistic way. And I feel like if they just kind of thought about it differently or kind of used a different means of showing this game off, it would have hit better for me. But the story seems interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree with that. I thought it was like probably like you said, I agree. It was probably one of the least impressive visual games they had on there. I think I'll definitely try it out because I love those like mystery and detective games. I've
Mhm.
like even not super popular, but Murder to Soul Suspect, and a lot of the other like you said, Telltale games, even some of the Dark Pictures anthology games they've been doing. I really
Mm,
like that kind of style, so I think I'll definitely test it out. But yeah, not super impressed with it visually.
yeah. You were shocked at that, Shane?
Yeah, I was shocked mostly because there's one other that I was a little like just kind of confused with, but I guess it's also not my style of game. I mean, neither of these particular games are my style. It's just mostly that this game looked like for what it was going to be pretty put together. Versus what I felt kind of more like was just a reprint of a game. If you can't figure out what I'm talking about, Ori and the Wisp is, or Ori is kind of just like I felt that like it was just a reprint versus like this is new content.
Oh yeah, and I feel like that's kind of um, I said that this was kind of the weakest point of the show, but yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote updates that they have here aren't like necessarily exciting for somebody that hasn't played Ori, but looking at the differences that they showed there between whatever god awful FPS that they were running on Xbox to the 60 FPS 4K that you can get on the Series X now, um,
Yeah.
it looked way better. And I heard that one of the biggest complaints about that was the fidelity, and it almost made it unplayable in certain situations,
Mm-hmm.
especially on the launch Xbox.
I
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen like phone footage of like because I follow a few Reddits that are basically to make fun of games, and I've seen a little bit of phone footage of like it completely getting lagged out and stuck, and then all of a sudden it jumps across the screen and you die.
Right, and a game like that, you really need to have like almost pixel perfect accuracy, and 60 FPS I think is almost the low bar for something like that. And I feel like as soon as we make that the gold standard, those platformer games are going to become something
I
entirely different.
thought the gold standard already was 60 FPS. The advanced is now 120. Speaking of which, they were talking a lot about like 60 FPS guaranteed, and sometimes like you can go to 120. Are we talking TVs that are able to do 120 at that resolution, like, and not look like garbage? Is that a thing right now?
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah,
that's
there
we
are
do.
TVs out there that'll do it. Just you're going to be forking over probably right now. I mean, I don't know what prices are going to drop to this holiday when those start to come out, but I think TVs that are in that nature run probably $3,000 to $4,000 for a 50 to 55 inch. So definitely a big chunk if you want to jump into that range. But I think they're hoping that those OLED and QLED TVs will start to come down a little bit. Some of the ones that can handle a high refresh rate.
Oh boy, I
That,
hate.
and they're also dropping like buzzwords like 8K, and it's all stuff that's like kind of trying to future proof things. So even if it can push to like 120, I think that now pushing everything up to flat 60 and not going below that is going to feel so good for console players anyway.
Yeah, especially if it's running in native 4K, so that'll be nice.
I mean,
Yeah.
not to keep the conversation going, but Best Buy currently has several TVs that are. I mean, it starts at 800, like 850 ish, but there are a couple TVs 800, 1200 that are on sale right now that are 65, 75-inch TVs, 4K, 120 refresh rate.
Nice. So yeah, I think the prices are gonna really start coming down now,
Mm,
especially like kind of like how with the PS2, like the DVD players were insanely priced. Then you get a PS2 with a DVD player, and everything starts to kind of come down. So I think
Yeah.
we're gonna see that technology start dropping to suit the consoles that are coming out with it.
for sure.
Right. So moving on, this was a little bit more exciting in more of our camp of games. I feel like we play a little bit more FPS, at least me and Ben. Uh, the Outer Worlds DLC, Peril of Gorgon, got announced for release in September on the 9th.
Yup.
Did you guys play the Outer Worlds? Is the Outer Worlds on Game Pass? I believe it is.
I think it is. I don't have it downloaded, but I believe it is.
I did not play the Outer Worlds. I did watch the speed run of the Outer Worlds where the developers were baffled at some of the things that people were doing. And I hope they do that again with this DLC because it was very entertaining.
Yeah, but for those of you that didn't play the Outer Worlds, it was Obsidian's foray back into like a Fallout style RPG where it's FPS, but it's very story driven. You go from planet to planet in this almost dark comedic universe, and yeah, I feel like this is DLC that's well deserved and um, well waited for. I feel like people are going to be really excited for this one. I did not finish the Outer Worlds. I It was such a deluge of games there for a while that it kind of just got lost in the shuffle. But it is one of those games that I have been thinking about going back to, especially now where things are a little bit slower before the release of the new consoles. We have Avengers coming soon, but
Mm.
and I'm gonna finish Ghosts, and I'll have a little bit of downtime before that, but we shall see. The next one on here is another Obsidian game, Grounded. We know all about this one. We talked about this one on a few of the episodes of the podcast. But for those of you that don't know, it's a survival game a la like 7 Days to Die, I'd say, where you're kind of base building for um, like fortifying against outward assaults from giant ants or whatever. It's kind of the Honey I Shrunk the Kids
Yeah.
formula of
Yo.
uh, storytelling, I guess, where you're all the size of ant, or I guess you're kind of smaller than ants. So you're like the size of a grain of rice or something, and you have to survive in the backyard. And there's tall blades of grass, and you have to cut them down to make resources. You know, this craziness. But the trailer sold it, I think, more than I've been sold it by even some of the gameplay. I feel like the trailer was really well cut. It's
Mm.
coming out July 28th, and it's going to be available on Game Pass. So that's pretty sick.
I
Yeah, it's exciting.
this game actually is like 100% what I like. It's a survival, like fuck around with friends, like
Mm,
make shelter. Like I don't know. This game is this looked like a lot of fun to me, and it being out tomorrow for like that beta, I might look at this one. This one
yeah,
definitely seems pretty fun.
Definitely think it'd be really fun to play with friends.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those games that they'll be able to build on from for time to come. You know, that I feel like it's gonna have such a niche player base that just keeps wanting and wanting and wanting content. So good for them. Good for Obsidian to have not one, not two, but three games with this next announcement. This one actually shocked me because I really didn't expect them to have anything ready quite yet, but they did announce a new IP called Avowed with a really cool trailer that is it's like dark Middle Ages, uh, very Skyrim like, but with way better graphics. It in short, it just looks pretty awesome. So what did you guys think of this trailer? Because I think this one was one of the ones that caught me off guard, and I was like, oh wow, all right, here we go.
um, this one was I don't know. I didn't really see this one coming, if that makes sense. like
Right.
like if you watch like when you watch these, usually you're like, all right, so we're gonna have this, we're gonna have this. Like I wonder at what point they'll drop these. I didn't really see this one coming, and I didn't really quite know what to think about it either, to be honest with you. I feel like I just want a little bit more to kind of like know what exactly it is.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely would like to see a little bit more on it, but the trailer definitely piqued my interest. I
Mm.
like to see like kind of how the gameplay mechanics will work and all that, but the trailer was really crisp and cool looking, and like it's always kind of piques my interest with one of those trailers where it comes on and you're like, oh yeah, it's gonna be this, and then you're like, wait a second, what is this? And you're trying to think, and you're watching it unfold, and it definitely looked like a game I'd be interested in checking out. Uh, there aren't a ton of new games coming out that are like that right now, so I think it kind of fills that void for, like you said, like the medieval kind
Mhm.
of melee sword bow and arrow type game that is really fun to play.
Mm.
Agreed. Agreed. The the thing that excites me the most, and I what I hope for is that Microsoft gives Obsidian plenty of time to work on this one and make it great. Because if they do come out with something that hits even like remotely as much as Skyrim, I feel like they're gonna have a big winner on their hands, and Obsidian's gonna kind of catapult themselves to one of those triple or even quadruple A developers um, in just the short term that they've been owned by Microsoft. I feel like they've already kind of grown as a studio.
Mhm.
So
Oh
that's
yeah,
awesome.
for sure. As long as they give them the time to develop it, I think that it'll be really solid. And with the game lineup they have, so many games coming out, I think they'll definitely have the time where they're not going to be rushed to put out a game because there's not a lot on the table.
Yeah,
So
very true.
next on our list, Interior and Night. This is the one we were talking about before. A new indie studio for Microsoft is making As Dusk Falls, and this is that graphic novel style game that takes place in the South. Yeah, it
Yeah.
looked interesting. It's definitely one of those mood games where you have to be in the mood for it and sit down and like actually pay attention and really explore your environment and kind of absorb a story. But interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but like I said before, a lot of times it's hard for me to play a game for the story because I really just like playing games like mechanical games and stuff like that. So I don't know if this is anything particular that I would personally love, but I mean it looked very nice and it looked really like attractive for like the type of game it is. I don't know if it's anything I would play, but you
Yeah, I
know.
mean it just kind of your basic level graphic novel game,
Mhm.
and from a new studio too. I feel like they're gonna have something new to say, hopefully, and you know, hope good things.
Yeah, for sure.
But moving on to our next one from Ninja Theory, which wasn't a big surprise at all. I thought this was actually going to be the one that they led the show with because everybody knew about it. Ninja Theory is still working on Senua's Sacrifice, the sequel to the first Hellblade.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they showed a trailer for this one, did they? I think it was just like an announcement.
This one was just announcement, right?
Yeah,
Unless I'm mistaken.
I think they just briefly came on the screen. And were like, "Yeah, we're still working on this. We don't have anything else to show, but we'll have stuff to show later on." But the initial trailer that they showed at the uh, I think it was I don't think it was the first Xbox showcase, but I think it might have been Game Awards when they announced um, the actual box or showed the actual box. That CG trailer that showed the Icelandic world that you're going to be inhabiting, and it kind of had Senua in the middle of all these like cult followers and
Mm-hmm.
music, and it I guess it was running in engine and it looked gorgeous. So
Yeah, it did look really nice.
that's probably one of the better looking game CGIs that I've seen so far.
Yeah.
So excited for that one. Excited to see what Ninja Theory actually does now that they're owned by Microsoft and they have those pockets to reach into.
I was gonna say a little deeper pockets. Kind of brings you from that single A to double A, possibly.
Right, right. So our next one is actually one that got me super excited because Jack Black is performing the new theme song for this.
Oh
Double
boy.
Fine and Tim Schafer are finally working on Psychonauts 2, which got a lot of people excited because Psychonauts was a really big action platformer on Xbox 360. So a lot of people have been waiting a really long time for this one, and now that they're finally coming out with it, they have Jack Black performing the theme song, and it is hilarious.
Dude, this fucking I watched this trailer and was like, "Hey, Psycho Jack Black." What?
Yeah.
And like, oh man.
I can't believe that one, Jack Black's actually doing that, but two, how crazy and wild that this trailer was. I feel like this is the trailer that is the most bonkers and the most risky that Xbox has gone, especially with
Oh yeah.
what we have coming next. We have such safe bets in like at least the next 4 games that we're going to talk about. This one I feel like is one of the biggest risks that Xbox is going to be taking in the next gen, and I think it's going to pay off big time because this is exactly the type of game you can see the mascot of the game being like a mascot for Xbox later on down the line, similar to like a Ratchet and Clank for PlayStation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So excited to see more on that, and really cool looking gameplay. I don't know how people are going to be able to play this if they have any kind of visual impairments, like
Yeah. I don't know, man. The game looks cool, but that trailer.
Giant sticker on the front. If you have epilepsy, please steer far clear of this. But yeah, any closing thoughts on that one? Because again, pretty cool.
It looked pretty good. Honestly, the Jack Black thing just drew me in the most. I was like kind of paying attention to it, and then I saw him, and I was like, oh wait, wait a second, what's this? Dude,
Yeah.
he's not hasn't been in the spotlight recently, and I'm like not sure if he just like they put him in a cave, then took him out after. But man, that guy looks wild.
Yeah.
He's literally just been doing the Jumanji movies and just staying at home with his kids. So it's kind of crazy. But moving on to kind of less exciting stuff, but you know, it's the stuff that fills the time. Bungie is bringing better Destiny 2 quote
Woo,
to
Bungie.
Xbox Series X, so it's just going to be, I imagine, up-resed, 60 FPS at least. You know, the whole kit and caboodle for upgrading those FPSs for the next gen. Also, there's going to be the new expansion Beyond Light that's going to be launching on Game Pass, and I think they announced that um, all the expansions are going to be available for Destiny 2 on Game Pass as well. So that all kind of bundles together for being quite a big deal for Bungie and Destiny 2, because I feel like their player base has dwindled.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that'll draw a lot of people back just for the simple fact that you buy the original game, kind of like Nick and I and my brother James did. Buy the original game, you grind it out, you get your character kind of respectable level. Then the next DLC comes out, you got to buy that, you got to buy the next thing, the next thing. Whereas a lot of people would just be able to jump right back into this with if they have Game Pass, being able to just play the whole thing as a complete package instead of having to like buy the DLC piecemeal.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. Because, like, I bought the original game and played it a ton, and then was like, all right, that was fun. And then the next DLC came out, and I was like, all right, well, I only put about 15 hours into the original game, like 15 to 20 hours, and it cost $60, and I'm gonna spend $30 on a DLC, and like the time to like breakdown of that $60 was like, I don't think I'm gonna pay 30 for this, and then I just didn't play it again. So like, I don't know. I like
Yeah.
that the DLC is going to just like be with it.
That helps. Yeah, that helps out a lot. That kind of
Excuse me.
Destiny 1 kind of did that with me. I bought the game, pre-ordered it $60, bought the Game Pass, which was also $60, and then had $120 into the game, had fun with it, played it. But then when they started doing their next expansion, their next thing, it wasn't included in the season pass. So I had already put $120 into the game, and now there's a whole other thing that I can't play. So
Yeah.
definitely having all that included, I think I would have been playing Destiny a lot more if those things had already been included.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Not to mention that next pack that was available after the season pass was a whole other $60. So that's $180 you would have had to spend to keep up with Destiny 1. So I feel like they kind of learned a little bit with Destiny 2 as far as that went, but they still kind of made that big mistake after the season pass. They didn't do anything to help out the current players of Destiny, like, oh, this is cheaper, or this is included, or you get some special thing for being around so long. And these people that are just kind of coming back and buying all the DLC in one lump sum don't really get that, or they have
Yeah.
to get it in a different way, or they have to earn it, because coming back, especially as somebody that's been a lapsed player for a while, coming back to Destiny 2 earlier this year, I was pretty much given an extra like 150 light level. As soon as you get into the game, you just get a ton of engrams, and it seems pretty cheap that way. It seems like I kind of elevated, and I loved it. It was honestly great for me coming back, and I can see where that draws people back too. But um, for players that have been around and playing the game from launch, it must seem kind of bittersweet.
Mm, for
But
sure.
that is Bungie and Destiny 2. This next one was kind of weird because it's back to back with another game that looks very, very similar. Stalker 2 had a gritty trailer release. It's kind of just a CG trailer going through this dark Chernobyl uh, kind of hellscape. Everything's like completely destroyed. Um, and you finally get a pan shot of this guy in a gas mask and everything. So you kind of get an idea of what the game's going to be about, but they didn't really show any gameplay. Stalker 1, I looked up a little bit of gameplay, and it seems pretty cookie cutter FPS to me, but people seemed pretty interested in this one. When I looked around online, people were chitter chattering about it. Maybe not as much as Halo or some of the other FPSs on here, but um, got a little bit of a pop, I'd say. What do you think?
Um, I don't know. I didn't really. I don't know. This game rather didn't really hook me personally. Um, it also like I don't know. It seems more of like a. Is it technically like a horror game? The trailers seem pretty edgy.
Yeah, I can imagine it probably has some more horror elements, sort of like Metro in a way,
Yeah.
because Metro has like really horrifying like bat monsters that attack you
Right.
from the depths of hell or whatever. But yeah, I don't know if they'll go that far with
It's
it. I again don't quote me on any of this because I really didn't look too much into Stalker 1, but I imagine that there's some kind of mutant aspect to it being set in Chernobyl.
I mean, I like the Chernobyl idea of it. Like something being set in Chernobyl is cool, but
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a cool concept. Like the idea is cool. Definitely has been done a decent amount, but if they can make it like kind of have their own unique thing about the game, definitely be something that maybe draw me in. I don't know. I just want to see some more, actual gameplay footage or see some more on it before I'd make a decision on that. But I think it could definitely be cool if it has some interesting mechanics that are different than another FPS. Kind of like you said. Hopefully, it's not just another cookie cutter. If it's got something unique, I'd definitely be interested in playing it.
I guess I didn't play the first one, but looking up some of the stuff on it, it's more of I guess the first one has a lot of RPG mechanics. Um, and I obviously like we got such a small kind of clip it of like what this was. If it has like RPG mechanics and stuff like that in it that are not cookie cutter, that are like a little different and has like a little more in depth, I could definitely see something like that being pretty fun. But
Yeah. Going on to our next one, because I'm just gonna throw this one in there because I don't think there was really too much to talk about with it, and it was very similar to the theme of the last game. It was
mm,
Warhammer Darktide. This one's coming out in 2021. It's a 4-player co-op FPS, and what they have out there for it right now makes it seem pretty like Left 4 Dead-y, where you're kind of making your way
yeah.
through a certain level, and there's a goal in mind, but mostly it's about just killing whatever's around you, I feel like.
I mean,
And also, I didn't really think that Warhammer was an FPS. Last time I remember Warhammer, I remember like the tabletop version of Warhammer.
so Warhammer 40K makes a lot of games, like a lot of different types of games and stuff like that. They have Warhammer 40K 2, which is kind of like a tabletop strategy game, except they turned it into like a full-on 3D board that you like actually control your units in battles and fight them like as if you would on a tabletop. And then they kind of have these spin-offs. They have this. They have Warhammer. What's it called? Warhammer Vermintide, or something like that. I don't know how to say it quite right, but
Vermintide.
huh?
Vermintide.
Vermintide. Thank you. Which is another just kind of like it's almost like a DLC, except it's like a playable standalone DLC that was created that allows you to experience the game more in like a first person kind of way. Um, I think I had like 4 or 5 different characters, and it was another 4-player game. I played it with DJ for a little bit. It was okay. It's kind of very cookie cutter RPG, but it wasn't bad, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting how they're switching it up because like I haven't played anything from Warhammer, but just from looking at it before we all got on for this podcast, I saw like Warhammer Vermintide 2 is like set in a like medieval time with swords and axes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
kind of the idea
interesting
I
how
had.
they're gonna bring this setting into like a sci-fi like atmosphere, kind of similar game, but now you've got plasma guns and blasters and crazy helmets, and I think it'd
Yeah,
be cool, especially because it's gonna be 4-player co-op. I
yeah,
think that'll be something cool, especially if, everyone has Game Pass, all 4 of you can hop on together and play just to try it out. But I think it'll be cool as long as it's not too, I don't know, kind of like we said before, cookie cutter and standard.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Game Pass definitely elevates these games, especially the ones that are like, I don't really
Yeah, exactly.
know if I'm into this quite, but you could just jump right in for the base price of $8. So it's like hell.
I'd
Why
say
not?
if I didn't have Game Pass, I'd probably be looking at, 2, maybe 3 of these games. And with Game Pass, I'll at least try 70 or 80% of these. So,
Right, right. And that's gangbusters for them, honestly. So, moving quickly on to the next one. This one is actually really interesting. I remember Tetris Effect coming out a couple of years ago now, but now they have a completely new aspect coming to Tetris Effect. called Tetris Effect Connected, and it's coming out holiday 2020. So I imagine it's going to be a launch game for both of the consoles. But yeah, if you really like Tetris and you really like EDM, this is the game for you.
Seems
Yeah,
pretty
it's pretty
legit.
cool. Looks like it's going to be pretty cool as far as I don't know how many players will be able to play at once, or if it's going to be if that's what they're kind of saying with all the different people on their screens, it's going to be like a tournament style, or exactly how it's going to work. I know the other one was like a Tetris battle royale almost, but I don't know how it's going to work. But it seems pretty cool.
Right.
A reimagining on a classic game like that.
Mm.
Yeah. The next one here is a game from the third-party developer Thunderful Games. It's called Gunk. It's a 3D action platformer where you have this cool-looking glove that sucks up this black goop around the world, and you're kind of making your way through. It looks a lot like again like a Ratchet and Clank or a Mario, where you're kind of making your way through these almost elevated levels and again platforming.
Mhm.
What did you guys think of this one? I thought this was a little bit more of a unique title amongst the consistent first-person shooters that we've seen.
I thought it was cool. Definitely like colorful and definitely will probably look really good on the next gen. Also think it kind of hits a category they were missing, kind of like I mean not a kids game, but more of a family friendly game that if you do have kids or someone younger wouldn't be quite as bad playing as far as some of the other darker first person shooters, which like there were a lot of FPSs on here and a lot of like dark horror games that people might not be okay with their kids playing, whereas this seems like it's a little bit lighter for maybe younger people to be able to play.
Right.
I mean, it kind of struck me as like a almost I couldn't tell, but it kind of struck me as like a survival, like I wonder what you do with the gunk once you suck it up type of thing. I bet you get to do something with it, like I don't know. It looked entertaining at the
Yeah,
very least.
I think they showed in the trailer. I think there was like different ways you can use it to
Yeah,
traverse and whatever and build different things to get to different areas. So it has
Yeah.
that almost like Super Mario Sunshine idea where you have that resource that you're using, like the water in the jetpack for that.
love that game by the way.
Yeah, that game is amazing. But it yeah, you use that to like clean up the gunk, and but then you run out of water, so you need to find another water source. And if you don't have enough water, you can't clean off the gunk. So it's kind of that.
Mhm.
But looks interesting, like we said. Um, but again, we were just talking about how different this is from the slate of games we've had. This next one from Bloober Team is probably the most unique out of all of these, given its crazy new mechanic that they're able to do with the next gen consoles, rendering two realities at the same time. The Medium, the horror game that puts you in the shoes of a medium in which you go into different locales and you can literally see the spirit world, and you're walking through the spirit world and the real world at the same time in certain aspects to solve different puzzles or get through certain areas. It honestly impressed me, almost and maybe on the same level as Ratchet and Clank did with the rifting, where you
Mhm.
kind of like rip through different levels in that game. This has a very similar feel to it, where you're in two different places at once, and it's honestly awesome.
Yeah, this one got me really excited. I'd say this is like in the top three games that I saw and that I was definitely, even if I didn't have Game Pass, would probably be something I'd be looking into buying, depending on what else gets released about it. But it looks really awesome. It definitely hit home. I love the, like I said before, mystery games and all that, and it's kind of got like a mystery horror feel to it. And it's like right up the alley, the games I like to play. So I'm definitely gonna be playing this one when it comes out.
Hell yeah.
I mean, I prefer to watch people play these types of games than personally play them. I'm not a big horror game guy, uh, but the game definitely felt creepy, and it caught my eye when it was like that scene where they were sitting against the wall and the girl changes like 3 or 4 different times. It kind of just like what is that? You know what I mean? Like what's more
Mhm.
to it?
Be
Yeah, it
really
gives you a
cool
lot
to
of
see how
questions.
the next gen stuff renders, like you said, both realities at the same time, and how like smooth that transition is between the two of them.
or like even what it has you do in each of those, like what obstacles you might face in one that you can solve in the other by doing something. Like it just has me with all kinds of crazy questions that
For sure.
makes me want to play the game. So that's honestly good questions to have for it.
Mm.
But on to our next one. We're rounding out the show here with Sega and Fantasy Star Online, which isn't necessarily one that I watch consistently. I know that Fantasy Stars hits home with a lot of people, but they're launching, I think, at launch. I didn't really look at this one. Do you want to look it up for me? Um, New Genesis Fantasy Star Online 2. I feel like this is already out in Japan and it's being localized for launch.
It's been out for a long time in Japan.
Yeah.
It is out currently. Actually, I have Fantasy Star downloaded on this computer. It's out currently, and Fantasy Star, uh, it's pretty fun. But it definitely feels a little older. Like the gameplay feels a little older. I think the game has been out for. Jeez, let me think about it. I think it's been out for a number of years in Japan as it is. I can actually find out, but I know it's been out for a pretty decent amount of time in Japan, and it just hit kind of the American market, and like it's fun in the American market, but you can tell that it's needing a little more. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, agreed. I
I don't
It
have a
gives me
launch date
Final
here.
Fantasy online vibes. Clearly, it's that type of game.
Hmm.
But other than outside of that, I really don't know what to expect. I've watched a little bit of gameplay. It looks a lot like Monster Hunter in a way too,
Yeah, very Monster Hunter.
where there's just like one big boss that a ton of you are fighting at the same time. A little bit like WoW in that way too, I guess.
It uh it says coming 2021. No actual date.
Okay, so maybe not available at launch then. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
still one of those games that kind of hits a niche and brings in more players
Oh.
to the Xbox ecosystem.
I mean, right now as well, you can play, like if you want a little taste of the game, you can play Phantasy Star Online too, just like straight. It looks like it's on Xbox One right now as it is, and it's free to play. So if you wanted to check it out, you can play the Phantasy Star 2, and it might even give you a little more look into what the new Genesis update will be, or if that will be a standalone, I guess technically. But
Moving on from that, Remedy has a new Crossfire game coming out with the next gen console at launch, holiday 2020. It says here, so I imagine that's probably launch. Um, yeah, another FPS. It was very much the same feel as well, I guess it wasn't exactly the same. This is a bit more like your standard militarized first-person shooter, a lot like Call of Duty in that way, or maybe even like a Rainbow Six. I think that's
Yeah,
probably
it
more
reminded me
what
a lot of Siege.
yeah,
mm,
that's probably more what they were trying to go for with this one, more tactical, boots on ground type deal. Um, but yeah, it looked good enough. I feel like having this game, especially at launch, where I don't think. Um, I guess Stalker 2 is a launch exclusive, but I don't know where. Yeah, Warhammer's 2021. So yeah, this one and Stalker are going to be those two FPSs other than Halo that are going to be fighting for that top spot.
mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for them,
Seems legit.
but the one last thing that they had to show for the show was Playground is finally revealing that they were working on Fable.
Yes.
And this was a big deal. I feel like they needed to show something from Fable because Fable is that one of those temp poles now that people expect from from Xbox to like finally get right. And Halo is one of those, Gears is one of those, Forza is one of those, and
Mm.
now Fable at Playground is definitely one of those because Playground's such an esteemed developer. They've been under the Xbox umbrella for long enough now to where they have a good relationship with Xbox. So if anything goes awry, I'm sure that they'll have plenty of time to fix things. So expect this one to be a banger for sure.
I mean, it's got Playground's name on it, so I do love Fable in general. Actually, I've played all the Fable games. I haven't played them since they literally came out, but I enjoyed them when they came out. I thought the freedom that they gave with kind of like the weird kind of skill trees type stuff was a lot of fun.
I'm definitely excited for it too. I was reading a little bit about it earlier, and it's still so early on, but a lot of it's speculation. But it seems like they're going to be, as far as rumors and speculation go, changing up some stuff in the game, and that's going to be really fun. Having a multiplayer aspect and yeah, adding stuff like buildability and stuff is going to be really cool.
Yeah. The one thing that I feel like this can do for Xbox is do what God of War did for PlayStation and be that um, almost close to middle generation, a little bit earlier uh, boost for them that they need, like that tentpole game that we get our Halo now, and I imagine Gears will probably come out before Fable, the next one. Um, I think that this can elevate their catalog of games later on so that they don't have like a down year. I feel like they
For
can
sure.
put this in there and immediately be like, all right, this is a win year for Xbox, even if we just have this game come out.
They definitely had that at least one, maybe even two down years in this life cycle with the last gen, where they kind of were seeming like they were scrambling to get a game out. So, like you
Mm.
said, I think it'll be really good to have something like this slated for a little further in the future.
Right. And that was the Xbox Game Showcase. What do you guys think? I feel like the whole thing as a whole show, even though there were kind of like some bog downs here with like Phantasy Star Online wasn't like that big a banger, a few of those other indie games didn't really get the blood pumping much, but I feel like they had a lot of titles that really enticed you, and especially with that flavor of each of these is going to be available at launch on Game Pass. Being able to try each of these is going to feel so good for Xbox players with that ability.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. The showcase was a little bit better than I thought it was going to be. In the past, they've been a little light on games, so I wasn't expecting too much, but it definitely impressed me. And like you said over and over again with the Game Pass, just the ability to try everything, I think is going to be pretty cool to test out so many different games. Some you would never try, and some styles of games that you wouldn't necessarily normally spend that $60 on. Where you're like, you know what, I'll give it a try. And honestly, I think also it'll give like some smaller developers a chance to really get into the market and become a bigger development studio. Just because, I mean, it takes off on Game Pass and it's actually a good game people normally wouldn't buy. They try it and they can gain some traction that way. So that's a pretty cool aspect of it.
Mm.
No.
For sure. I think I I don't know. I think that they did it was well presented, and the amount of games and the spacing of like the talking and stuff seemed pretty good. I liked the idea of all of these games obviously coming out like for launch on Game Pass is pretty cool. Obviously that's like almost next level. I'm pretty excited. I might even buy Game Pass for the computer because I know a lot of times Windows has like if it's a Windows 10 game and it's an Xbox game and it has multiplayer, a lot of times it's cross-platform as well.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Another thing that was kind of briefly said in the show, I think at the very beginning, is they have a little bit more to show before launch. So I expect another showcase, not to this level probably, but maybe more to show off a bit more of the flashy things of the console. Maybe whatever the digital version of the new Xbox is going to be. I imagine the S will be shown at that next showcase.
Can we get a price? Can we get a price?
yeah,
Maybe
right? I
Price?
so
Dude, are they just gonna hype us? Both consoles, like hype us so far,
dude,
and then be like, but it's like $800. But I mean, you guys want it, right?
yeah, it's like a week before launch. It's $800. Oh, come on, guys.
and then it gets computer.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, well, $800 for a console. Fuck it, man. But yeah, so that's been the Good Baker podcast this week. Make sure you go over to the YouTube channel, subscribe on our podcast services as well. If you listen there, go to our Instagram and Facebook page and follow us for any updates on any new stuff that we might be doing. We fucking loved this Xbox show. We love the PlayStation show. We love all these new games and consoles coming out this holiday season. And we cannot wait to talk more about these games with you guys. And of course, thank you to Ben being on talking to us about Xbox. He's a little bit more in that Xbox family. He actually has one, so that kind of helps. He's
Yeah,
played
it's
a little bit more of
really
these
fun.
games.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, man, it's been good, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.